Hey guys, this is Rotenks from Local TCG, and today, as you could tell by the intro, title, thumbnail, and probably the post if you saw a post for this, I'm taking you through the Eugene deck that I have been topping with a fair bit during set 1, and heading into Festival Collection. It's still the same. You can run Hungasaurus, but it's not really needed that much. So we'll get into that a bit later, but for now, let's just go through the ride deck. You have your starter. Then you have Nigel. Nigel, you need it for the ride skill. You need that soul charge one so you can do Eugene's kill. I don't know what else to say. Randall, he's actually very nice. If you had a lot of spare CB going, I wouldn't be against running him as an additional 15k beat stick, as well as the soul is really useful depending on what cards you run, such as the soul +1 get 5k grade 2. Or the or on the next set, the Soul +1 Dragon, the dinosaur, the one that's actually really good in set 2. And then, we have Eugene. Eugene's skill, rest 2 rear guards while he's on Vanguard to retire a rear guard and get 10k to himself. And then on Vanguard, if you retire an opponent's rear guard during this turn, or, well, you don't even have to be the one to retire it, they just need to have a rear guard that died during the turn. You can Soul +5 to look at the same number of cards from the top deck equal to the open rearguard circles, and then you get to call as many as you want and put the rest to soul. So it's just like a good field building skill, very reminiscent of like Cecilia, but instead of it just being you make a board and your opponent has no say in it, you need to kill your opponent's shit so they have a say in it, and they can say no to that easily. So yeah, let's begin with the triggers. So first off, you have your 4 heal. Nothing special going on here. Just, you run the 4 heal. And then next we have 3, 5 front. And then we have 6 crit. The reason why we do a 5-6 split of front and crit is because you ideally are just going to be playing with the field that you build from Eugene's skill. So you don't need to be drawing cards to keep up with board presence while also being able to guard. You should just be playing with as much as you can with what Eugene gives you, and just like calling 1 or 2 cards to help fix it. And just also deck draws help you deck out faster, which, I mean, if you want to make a gimmicky deck doing that, go ahead. But I'm a fan of trying to make the games go for longer and trying to push my opponent through stalled out games where their resources are just being whittled while mine are still kind of prominent in the late game. And always having that option to just Eugene whenever like I need a new board is always nice. So I don't really need that I don't really need that draw to get the cards I want, because Eugene will probably help me get them. And then we have the overtrigger. We are running the Dragon Empire overtrigger naturally. But you can, if you want, run the, why is thinking hard? The Cray Elemental overtrigger. In my opinion, they both do the same thing, where you're essentially getting 2 PG checks. You're getting, with the Dragon Empire one though, you're getting an extra 2 cards in hand, which can always help. But there are some people who either A, can't afford the Dragon Empire overtrigger, or any overtrigger, which is fine. You buy things according to your budget. Go ahead and do that shit, king or queen. And then you have the Cray Elemental one, which just, you don't get the 2 drives, but you also might not deck out because you didn't get those 2 drives before, which can happen, but it's probably not enough to be like a key factor to running the Cray Elemental overtrigger. Like, it's purely up to preference, but I would say that the Drakveta has more going for it still. So yeah. And now let's head into the grade 1s. You have your 4 PG, nothing much to say there. Then we have 4 Mango. What Shiga Manango does is, or whatever, she is just a synergy of Eugene, very much only Eugene. When you retire an opponent's rearguard during your main phase, you can retire this to look at the top card of your deck. Wait, no, it's not even when it's when your opponent's rearguard is retired. So, again, if they kill shit during your main phase somehow, this can activate. It just retire herself to look at the top card of the deck and either call or put it soul. Very nice card. It's just really good to have. It gets you more soul for Eugene if you need it, or maybe even a Blaster Blade clone or something like that. And it's also just field. It's just making field for you. It's replacing herself, so you can never go wrong with that. And then we run 3 not Tribash. This is Tenchestead. You know, they're both dragons. It's close enough. But Tenchestead, just a nice card for now. I'm not too sure if I want to run it in set 2. We'll get to that when we get to that. So yeah, just for now, a very nice card. You can never go wrong with getting that extra Persona ride, or just having that pressure. Like, you can have all of them in hand and your opponent doesn't know, and you can still pressure them into guarding. So yeah, that's always something to just keep in mind. And the 1 CB, that's fine, because it's like, what, you have this and like 2 other cards that you CB, so it's not really that expensive of a cost. And next we have 4 of Oshikuni, which is just the 15k attacker if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards. Always a very nice card to have. The more 15k attackers, the better. Speaking of which, we'll get into another one later. But for now, yeah, just 4 Oshikuni. Then this is where my grade 2 lineup is, what I would say, is quite special. Not because of like what I run, but because how many I run of each. We have 2 of the Blaster Blade clone. It's just legit Blaster Blade from V series. Just on play CB1 Solus 1, kill a grade to a higher rearguard. So this causes some issues with Eugene, because normally when I play the deck, I see that grade for a grade 2 and I use Eugene's skill to retire it. So if I ever Soul Blast 5 and get one of these out, that's just kind of dead unless I have 2 or more. So it's kind of an ouch if that happens. But you can't really play expecting to get this in your top 5. So if something that happens, it just happens. Like for example, if you got the Overtrigger in the top 5. It happens, it might not next game, you never know. Then next we run 2 Blazing Spear Dragon. Very nice PR, it's easy to get and it's just nice overall. It's a 20k attacker, because it's it's a 20k attack for the turn, which is unfortunate, but if it was for more than 1 turn, that would be kind of insane. So it's just on place rearguard. If your opponent has no units in the same column as this unit, you CB1 and give him 10k. Just very simple and effective. And then next we have 2 Zafar. Zafar, very nice card. Just when it intercepts Soul Blast 1, get 5k. Before I ran Zafar, I was running 2 of the Blitz Order, the 15k one. But after thinking about it and trying it out, they both work essentially the same. In fact, Zafar's are probably a bit better because you don't need to be at 3 damage to use it. And your opponent probably isn't going to be really desperate to kill your 10k intercept. So, you know, that's something to always keep in mind. And the soul, that's a reasonable cost in this deck. You do have a lot of soul after you use Eugene, which you should be using once, maybe twice. Even then, you probably have enough soul for him. So yeah, that's the main reason why. And also, he's a body that you can call off of Monango or Eugene. Meanwhile, if you got the Blitz Order, you would not be able to call it. So yeah, I would like to think everyone was like, but what happens if you call the order from Mango and all that? That really pushed me to look for another option, because I was pretty set on the order. So yeah, that's just the grade 2s, so now we'll head into the grade 3s. Actually, wait a second, that is not the grade 2s. I was speaking about the 15k attackers. Another 15k attacker we had, I'll excuse the paper printout and the poor colors of it. I did not have any product to get this from, so yeah. And it's only, what, day 1, day 2, whatever, first weekend. So this is Hungasaurus. You can get him from the Festival Collection. This is the only upgrade you can really make to the deck after set 1, before set 2, outside of the PR of course. But essentially he gets 5k during your turn, but he's not able to attack the Vanguard unless your opponent has an empty front row. I do not see a use in running him, because I have Blazing Spear Dragon, who is a lot easier to, you know, get that 10k buff over this 5k buff. Because one, Bastion is pretty goddamn popular and all that, and it's a really good deck. So, you know, that Fossad in the front row is just going to shut him down. And I mean, sure, swinging at the Fossad's nice and all, but I would rather just utilize that one non-Fossad column they have, or that one column where they have no booster behind it, so I can just Eugene kill it and then play Then I can Blazing Spirit. So yeah, that's why I don't really run Hungasaurus yet. However, in set 2, I do believe there is reason to run Hungasaurus because you have a lot more retiring in the front row, and for sad, not really for sad, but what you call it, just Teddy Sanctuary as a whole kind of becomes equalized with everything else, meaning you know, you're not going to be seeing Facade as much as you would normally, so he can become better. And now let's head into the grade 3s. So you know, we have a 3 Eugene. I can't really say much about these. I already talked about it before. Just, you want 3 for that Persona ride. Next, we have 4 of the best grade 3 in Dragon Empire. Tribash. So, this man is a very good card. What he does is when your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, you put in the sword to give your Vanguard a crit for the battle. So, you know what? Going first and using the skill is absolutely amazing and really fun, and just overall super nice pressure. I have annoyed a fair bit of people by keeping them at 3 and just having that one Tribash to be like, BG, BG, BG. So this is kind of a reason why I also don't run 8 front, I mean not 8 front, 8 crit in the deck, because you know, Tribash gives my Vanguard a crit, and that's really all the pressure I can ask for, and I want the fronts to make my front row bigger. Because that is something which, if you have been paying attention to, if you've been paying attention to it, then you will notice that my front row lacks power outside of 6 cards. So yeah, we do kind of need those fronts. And then we have 2 Sunlight Punishment. Holy shit, I need to get sleep, but fuck that. Essentially, this is just CB 1 or more, and for the amount you CB, you get to kill those amount of rear guards. So if your opponent rushes you early and you have this by chance, you can punish them by nuking that entire field and tell them, rebuild it, I dare you. I'm just going to kill it all again. So you know, that's a thing. Also, just like a very nice tempo card in general. Whenever I see it, as long as it's turn 3 or later, I am happy to see this card, because I know, like, hey, if my opponent does a push turn and they fail, I can use this to follow up and just ruin their entire tempo and swing it towards my favor, even if I had to miracle heal to live that turn. Top deck in this will probably still switch that around to my favor just by nuking their entire board and asking them to rebuild, if I had CB, of course. But you know, another thing to also keep in mind is that you shouldn't be nuking all the rear guards of this. You know, just, you want to still play your CB conservatively. Just, at minimum in this deck, I would say you just want to get the 2 or less rear guard requirement. The only time you should be aiming for that full empty board is when you have to for either Blazing Spear Dragon because you don't want to overcall, or just to get Eugene's most value from his skill. Those are the only 2 situations where nuking the entire board is probably the ideal route over just getting the 2 or less requirement. Because, you know, that 2 or less requirement is what most of your cards need, and it becomes slightly more difficult in set 2 when we get the dinosaur, as he needs 1 rear guard. But again, we'll get to that when we get there. So there isn't really any combos for me to show you really. It's quite a simple deck. You just want to play for numbers, get in that 18 to 23k, and you just play a slow game where you conserve your hand and you just try to keep a tempo going. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.